So you're a new business owner, or you're thinking about starting a business and you're wondering what books to read. Well, you're in luck, because this video will show you the 3 books that I have personally read when I was starting my previous business, which was a faceless YouTube channel, which eventually grew to over 30,000 subscribers and generated millions of views and tens of thousands of dollars in revenue. I happened to read these 3 books when I was in a period of working in the city of London and reading a book every fortnight to try and increase my knowledge and my business wisdom. So without any further ado, let's get into it. So up first, I have what is not that well known of a book, but it is called The Art of Self-Directed Learning. Now, this book is a personal favorite. It wasn't actually recommended to me by anybody. I just happened to come across it while I was reading The Science of Self-Learning. And you know the saying, study the art of science and the science of art. So I thought, if I'm reading The Science of Self-Learning, I might as well read The Art of Self-Directed Learning, which is near enough the same thing. This book is very good because it breaks down the journey basically as an entrepreneur. You're somebody who's learning on their own. You're going down paths which haven't necessarily been traveled before, so you got to teach yourself how you can learn new skills. And this book covers like the best ways that you can learn to teach yourself, the sort of mental attitude you're going to need to be able to handle the journey of going down a path and teaching yourself the skills and tricks necessary to succeed in whatever path you endeavor without any guidance. And it talks about how you have to find your own paths in life, and you can't just rely on somebody to be leading you down a certain path. Even if you don't know what you want to do, you can start to find purpose, and you can try and find mastery in things that you enjoy and things that have deep meaning to you. And the reason why I recommend this book is because as an entrepreneur, you're going down a path of learning on your own. So you're going to need to know how to learn. So you're going to need to learn how to learn. And The Art of Self-Directed Learning is great because it will teach you how you as an individual, without anybody leading you, will be able to find something that you want to do, like calculate how to do it by reverse engineering what other people have done or what the end goal is. So you reverse engineer that, and then you can work towards it by just following each step day by day. And it talks about the attitude to have when having failures and setbacks, which are inevitable. Whichever business endeavor you choose, you're going to have setbacks, you're going to have failures. The difference between successful business owners and failures is that the successful people overcame their failures, they learned lessons from their failures, and they continued, whereas the unsuccessful gave up after a failure which was either too painful to them or they just couldn't be bothered to get back up again. And sometimes in life and in business, just getting back up that one more time is enough to guarantee success for the rest of life. So this book is great because it does re-emphasize the need for that great growth mindset versus a fixed mindset. You know, a growth mindset is a mindset saying, even if you don't know how to do something now, even if you can't physically do something now, in the future you can learn how to do it, and in the future you will be able to overcome that issue. So this book is great for just directing your own path in life and choosing to go against the grain and go against the norm and try and find your own path in life, which is what I'm doing with this channel and in my own life, and which I assume if you're watching this video you want to do with your own life. This book also touches on how subtle language changes can also shift your mindset from that fixed mindset to a growth mindset, which is important for success in business. And it talks about how the subtle changes from I can't to I could if, and also I should to I choose to or I chose not to. Just re-emphasizing the fact that there's power in your words, and everything we do we're choosing. So if you're saying you can't do something, really you could if you've done something else, but by telling yourself you can't do something, you're choosing not to. And it's the same thing with I should rather than I choose not to. Like, we all know what we should be doing. We should be exercising, we should be eating right, we should be reading, we should be working hard. But most people say I should be doing XYZ, and they know they're not. But if they were to say I choose not to do XYZ, it would highlight to them that they're limiting themselves and that they ought to be doing better. And it just puts more of that responsibility on the individual, which is what you need if you want to succeed, because ultimately taking responsibility is how you can get to the higher levels in life and actually get to the positions you want. Because we're all in situations which we deserve to be in, whether we want to admit it or not. Usually the successful people admit it and the unsuccessful people won't. Okay, now moving on, this book is slightly more well known, but it's still a great book and still one of my personal favorites. And this book is How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. Now this is a great book because it talks about how you need to be able to make people your friends in life and in business, because ultimately business is like a people's game. everything involves people, no matter what business you're starting, whether it's a software business, whether it's a YouTube business, whether it's a physical business, you're going to need people. So having people as your friends and being nice to people and having the ability to influence them and negotiate with them is definitely an important skill. And this book touches on how you need to make people feel more important and remembering simple things such as people's names, because everybody's name to them is the most important thing. It's something they've heard since they were very young, and it's where they tie their identity to. So remembering people's names, keeping that in top of mind, and just being amicable with people will help you get influence over people and also make them your friends, so that you're able to do business with them or do good work with them. It also talks about the need to always choose the path of grace and friendliness rather than like anger and revenge. Let's say when things inevitably go wrong in business, so let's say one of your co-workers or your co-founders makes a mistake, and you have all right to shout at them because they made something, like they made the mistake, they said they were going to do X but they didn't, and they did Y, and you were entirely right. Instead of having a go at them like most people do, you know why most people are angry with their bosses? Because their bosses always have a go at them. So always choose the path of grace, because by choosing grace, you're going to make that person feel grateful that you forgave them for the clear mistake they made, and also give them the comfort to know that this person is not like reckless. They're not just going to be radical and just call me out if I make small mistakes. They're actually friendly, so maybe next time that person will work harder to ensure that they don't upset you again, knowing that you were nice when they did upset you. You know, it just reinforces that idea of being amicable, being friendly, allowing people to want to work with you and being able to be worked with. This book also touches on the ability to convince people of what you want to do, and one way to do that is also by making people believe it's their idea. So when you're having conversations, just to guide people in conversations to the ideas that you want to be portrayed. And it talks about how when you go into meetings, you must be prepared. You must know exactly what that person wants from you and how you're going to get it to be what you want, and you can get an agreement in a meeting or in a business deal. And it's just very important, because ultimately allowing people to talk and allowing people to give up their playing cards, basically allowing people to say what they want, you can then understand where people are coming from and slowly guide it towards what you want, without having to do it in a secretive way, but just doing it by letting them talk more and then guiding the conversation with subtle interjections or subtle changes or subtle like maneuvers to just get your point across in the same way that they wanted. And then ultimately the key part is allowing them to believe that what you want is actually what they want, so that when you leave the agreement or the meeting, it's that person thinking they won when in fact you got what you wanted, and you just let them think it was your idea. So this book is great for that, and just in general, in even outside of business, just in life, about how to obviously keep people friends with you, wanting to do business with you, wanting to be in contact with you and stuff like that. Because in business, people will do business with people that they know, like and trust. So if you can win friends and influence people, then those people will know, like and trust you, and then they'll want to do business with you. This book is also great for showing humility, because as much as you must give people grace when they make mistakes, you must also take self-accountability and accept full responsibility when you make a mistake, because it's inevitable in business. You're going to make mistakes, especially if you're working with other people, and instead of trying to defend yourself, pass the blame, if you just take responsibility and you just say, hey, you know what, it was my fault, I messed up here, a lot of the people you work with and your business partners or your co-founders or co-workers will be a lot more receptive to your mistakes, and they'll be much more friendly with you when you make a mistake, if you can at least own responsibility. Because nothing's worse than working with somebody where they make a mistake and then they don't want to take responsibility, because you can't even fix that situation if they're not even willing to accept it with their fault. So, you know, just being humble, admitting where you make mistakes, it will allow you to then have better people wanting to work with you and people to trust you that, hey, even if the guy does make a mistake, he will take ownership of it and he will try to correct it at best. And I know this personally, because in times where I've made mistakes with people and I actually try to just say, you know what, that was my mistake, this next time I'll do this instead, they're like, okay, you know what, don't worry about that, yeah, just make sure you do that next time. And I can tell that these people generally, they're much more happy to work with me, because they know, hey, if Jay makes a mistake, he's going to fix it and he's going to take responsibility and he'll make sure it won't happen again. So yeah, ultimately that's a great book to read when you're doing business with other people and you're getting into the part of your business where you're not just researching or thinking about what you're doing, but you're actually starting to talk to people, whether those are potential clients, leads, or even potential partners or co-workers. So yeah, definitely recommend reading How to Win Friends and Influence People. So then up next, which is the third and final book for this video, but definitely one that I highly recommend, it is Hustle Harder, Hustle Smarter by Curtis Jackson, aka 50 Cent. This is a book by somebody who most people wouldn't think is as business savvy as they are. from his background of being what was a drug dealer to a rapper to a movie star to a director and just a overall good celebrity. But this book is very impressive. It shows that even though he may have not had the best start in life, he hasn't let it hinder him, and he can still go into different business meetings and overcome his own fears and just tackle life as it is. And the book is big on tackling your own fears because he's grown up literally in the streets of New York, so he knows what it's like to risk your life in certain situations, and he knows that for a lot of people in business who've grown up with softer lives and easier lives, just haven't had to literally start at the absolute bottom as a drug dealer. Most people will just cave to their fears. They keep themselves in their comfort zones, and this book is big about getting out of your comfort zone, expanding your horizons and not being scared, but not only just going out boldly and ignorantly, but actually going out boldly and actually putting in the work so that when you do go out boldly, you can actually back up why you're bold and why you're confident, because you actually know what you're doing and you're actually good at what you're doing. This also talks about the most important reason to overcome your fears and to hustle, which is obviously for your freedom, because everybody in life wants freedom. Most people don't like their lives because they're going to have somebody who tells them what to do Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, and if they had their freedom, they would be much more grateful with their life. And that's why he talks about how it's important to make sure that you can work to put yourself in a position when nobody can tell you what to do. You live life on your own terms, and that life is only accessible once you overcome the boundaries set by your mind, which are your own self-limiting beliefs and your own fears about what people around you may think or what you may be good at or what you're not good at. And he also talks about the importance of actually just starting stuff, because I know personally, even when I was going door to door to offer people gardening services, the first door knock was the hardest one. After I got that one out the way, and the second and the third and the fourth just came easier, because you got that first one out the way, and then after that it was much easier. He has a phrase in there which always comes back to my mind, is literally just do shit. Once you just do shit, it will begin to make sense. The process will start to turn out. You'll start to learn, you'll be able to gather information and get feedback, and you can just continue along the journey. But the key point is just starting, and he touches on that in his book, which is obviously one of the things that most people don't do when they meet their fears. They never just overcome it. They just hesitate, and then never overcome it, and then either cave to it for the rest of their lives or find something else that they're trying to start thinking about it, trying to do it, and then they never actually start. But the difference between those who succeed and those who fail is some start and just continue forever. And it's the idea of just starting all the time, because even if you start and you fail, if you just start again, or if you just do shit again, you'll get somewhere eventually. And 50 Cent also talks about how he's had to put himself in rooms where he's able to get access to different information, because by nature, starting at the absolute bottom like he did, he didn't always have access to certain people or certain information. So he's had to find a way to balance his network with people who are obviously very well educated in these corporate positions, who know a lot about the world of business, and also his friends from the streets who are well connected and have shown their loyalty and have been with him through thick and thin. And he talks about how you have to be extremely strategic with the people who you choose to be around you, because ultimately those people will reflect onto you. And also how you have to set boundaries, not only in your business life but also in your personal life, because ultimately your personal life will reflect into your business life, and how the people you surround yourself with will then dictate some of the habits which you have. And if you like to hang around with people who are in the music industry, as he did, who are always partying and drinking, as something he doesn't actually do that much, which is drinking, he obviously parties, but how you have to be able to avoid those scenarios. And even if you get yourself into these scenarios, which you can't, you have to be able to maintain your boundaries. And this is something that I did yet again when I was working in the city, because a lot of the people in the city like to drink, and that was a year personally in my life where I chose not to drink at all. So despite being offered multiple drinks, I always had to maintain and just say, no, I'll take a sparkling water for now. And even at the time it may have been an unpopular thing to do, I'm so glad I made that decision, because working in the city with a sober mind really opened my eyes up to a lot of opportunities and a lot of stuff out there. So yes, I would definitely recommend going to read Hustle Harder, Hustle Smarter by Curtis Jackson, aka 50 Cent, because even though he's a man who may not look like the most savvy businessman, he's actually better than most of you think, and he actually has a very good business history, especially considering where he's come from. So just to recap, first book was The Art of Self-Directed Learning. That is by Blake Bowles wrote that one. Then we got How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. Then we have Hustle Harder, Hustle Smarter by Curtis Jackson, aka 50 Cent. So those are 3 books I recommend to read if you are a new business owner or you're thinking about starting a business. And also if you want to know the sort of mentality you're going to need when you're in business, I did make a video last week about the 5 mental shifts you need to make to succeed in business. So I'll leave that below in the description as the top link, and go watch that video if you're keen on starting a business, especially if you made it to the end. I can tell you are. So hopefully you can watch that and get some value from it, and otherwise I'll see you in another video.